Now, what is the movement for Truth Freedom Health? Go to truthfreedomhealth.com and you'll see it is a movement, it is education, it is a platform. Fundamentally, it's a system. Truth Freedom Health will teach you to become street smart, will inspire you to have dignity for yourself, will re-engage you to one of the most important precepts that everyone, the world working class, needs to awaken to. That in 1776, one small group of the global working class, known as Americans, got the rights to the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and so on. No other human group on the planet, through the histories of subjugation, slavery, feudalism, the oppression, in many, many ways, ever had these rights. So the duty of the American working class, in many ways, has a greater responsibility than other elements of the global working class, because the Indian working class is a bunch of slaves still. The Chinese working class are still slaves, and the British working class really doesn't have the First Amendment, nor any of the Commonwealth countries, be it Canada or Australia. But the American working class still has the First Amendment, and it becomes the duty of the American working class to take action to build back movements, the same movements that we teach at truthfreedomhealth.com in our courses that occurred during the late 1800s and 1900s. If you go look at that period, it was when people rose up, bottoms up, not waiting for Bernie Sanders or AOC or Donald Trump. These powerful bottoms-up workers' labor movement of the late 1800s, 1900s. And by the way, about 11 American workers were shot for fighting for the 8-hour workday, which you won't hear about in mainstream news. Tucker Carlson won't talk about this. But those American workers who died, in commemoration of them, the world working class created what was called May Day, which everyone says is some quote-unquote communist holiday. No, it was a bottoms-up movement holiday to support the American workers who were hanged in the 1800s. But anyway, all of that's been wiped out. The movement for Truth, Freedom, Health wants to re-engage you, to recognize it's about you. Stop following Tucker Carlson. Stop waiting for Elon Musk to solve free speech. You have to recognize that we need to build a bottoms-up movement. We need to go back to the heritage of what always gave people liberation, is when we look to our neighbors. But at truthfreedomhealth.com, we educate you, we give you the understanding of the knowledge of systems. The elites know the knowledge of systems. So like Prometheus, who brought fire to the masses, we have brought that knowledge to all of you. We've created a community. We give you tools. So go to truthfreedomhealth.com and it will resuscitate you into recognizing the power of the American working class. So all of this stuff that's happening right now, with the dropping of the Hunter files, with Kanye talking his nonsense, and Trump getting in there talking to these people, all of this is for one reason: to divert you from this movement. And let me give you 3 examples of how this has occurred over the last couple of years. Many of you may know in 2021, it was our movement which created the hashtag Fire Fauci campaign. Long before scumbags like Robert Kennedy came too little too late and just wrote books and trying to get you guys to give him his money. But it was our movement which raised, through your efforts, got hundreds of thousands of signatures. We're the ones who exposed Fauci as a bogus scientist. We're the ones this is in late 2019, early 2020, gathered signatures. We drove down to the White House in our bus for over 24 hours, and all of you can see it, and gave it to Trump and said, fire this guy. Trump did nothing. Robert Kennedy said nothing. Rand Paul said Zippo. 1 year later, he's using the hashtag Fire Fauci to raise money for himself. Another opportunist. But that was one example where they literally plagiarized stuff from our movement. The second example was this limited hangout stuff I just shared with you, okay? With the DHS leaks, The Intercept. And in that case, it was within a period of 48 hours. And they're getting closer and closer. Whenever we put out stuff, they try to take our stuff, use their megaphone to drive attention away from the movement for truth, freedom, and health. The recent example was this Whitney Webb example. The scumbag Glenn Beck, who's an opportunist, gives this woman, Whitney Webb, hours on her show, but didn't have the decency to cover our lawsuit in 2020. And everyone's like, oh my God, did you see this Whitney Webb thing? Well, go do a little bit of research on Whitney Webb. Where does she come out of? One of her associates comes out of the UK, United Kingdom, Center for Press, which everyone knows the US Press Corps, the UK Press Corps, and MI6 are like this. So she releases something against Epstein and this and this and this. Well, what does her news actually do to you? Oh, well, as I mentioned earlier, why isn't it horrible? This is happening and this is happening. And these elites are so powerful. But Whitney Webb's unlimited hangout literally comes about 48 hours to 72 hours after Clayton Morris covered our stuff. So what you're seeing is the elites are watching the movement for truth, freedom, and health. They know that not only are we exposing the truth, but we're also providing you the framework to get off your butt and act, not just inundating you with mindless stuff so you feel helpless. And as I mentioned, the entire basis of their effort is failing because the movement for truth, freedom, and health is an independent movement. 250 million people know about it. We have hundreds of thousands of people learning about this. And we're not reliant on their media or their coverage because we know they will always make our movement and our findings invisible. And this is a test of the true source of truth. You have all these people talk a good game, the grifters against the establishment. They get coverage, but the movement for truth, freedom, and health will never get coverage on mainstream media because we're the actual force that is going after the people supporting mainstream media as well as the grifters. So that's what I wanted to talk about.